Welcome to Season 2 of Rooted and Reaching, a podcast about startups, entrepreneurs, and innovation in the South Bend, Elkhart region of Indiana. I'm Marty Mechtenberg.
And I'm Susan Ford. We're excited to share 16 new stories with you this year. And we're going to get tactical about how entrepreneurs are confronting challenges, building success, and moving our region into the future.
Hi, everybody. We are here with another episode of Rooted and Reaching. I'm Susan Ford. I'm here with Marty Mechtenberg. And today we have the pleasure and privilege of spending time with Alex Saucedo. How'd I do on the last name? Saucedo. And he is the CEO and founder of Indiana's Elite Cleaning. And we had a tiny preview going into this conversation, and we are all really excited to hear your story, Alex. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And I hear this is your second podcast in 2 days almost?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, as most of our listeners know, this is all about the how-to story. And how do entrepreneurs do what they are doing? And I think you have some extraordinary stories of just making it happen. But before we get into that, could you just give us a little bit of the backstory, how you got to today, the things, the roles, the experiences you had that got you to starting a business, please?
Well, actually, I'm a third-generation professional cleaner. It started with my grandparents. We were migrant workers from Texas. So from a very early age, field labor was what we were used to. And it was janitorial positions with this Catholic school corporations that took us out of that, where my grandfather became the head of janitorial at the elementary school, my grandmother at the Catholic college. So with those opportunities, we no longer had to be in the field labor industry. And so from a very early age, I seen cleaning from a magnificent lens of opportunity. I didn't see it as a mundane, meager position with dead-end careers. So as I grew throughout life and seeing that, I actually went to kindergarten as a janitor. I thought I was so cool. I had a red rag in my back pocket. My grandfather put the school keys chains on my belt loop, and I thought I was the coolest kid in class.
Was this the school your grandfather was working at?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and I was to everybody else because he was so beloved by all the students, so I felt that from a very early age. And then when it came to business, I knew beyond factory work and beyond what I was doing currently, I was destined for more, right? And I knew I wanted to start a business, but I wasn't really sure exactly what. And I just went back to those early days, the love and passion for cleaning that I have. Some people have art, some people have music, whatever it is. For me, taking something that's going to be cast away, considered unworthy, filthy, and to bring it back to life with hard work and elbow grease, that's my satisfaction. So I just implemented that into a business strategy, and began planning at the COVID stage. COVID, I was researching, doing market research. What were the right products to combat the issues that were going on around COVID? How could you market that? What were the profit margins? I was also working as a maintenance personnel at the Indiana police academy, right? Okay. So floor waxing and buffing and all those additional services beyond janitorial, I got a firsthand education in. I was learning the supplies, what we needed, the equipment that was necessary for all of that, and just began strategizing. So landing in South Bend a few years later, implemented it with the right capital set in place and the assistance of the city of South Bend. When I obtained the Minority Business Development Council's small business grant, which gave us a leg up in purchasing all that equipment and implementing what we call the comprehensive cleaning company.
That is amazing. And I know you could keep going, so excuse me for interrupting, but I do want to go back a little bit because I think, so I'm really curious with the impact that your grandfather had on you. What was the moment for him that got him from the field work to the school? Was there a moment? How did he find that job? How did that happen?
I think they found him.
Okay.
So he was just a star employee.
Okay.
He was flying the helicopters across the fields, to picking labor, to just that leadership quality. And they didn't want him to move on to the next farm, to another state to continue the work. They wanted to keep him, in the community. So they offered him the position. There was a need there for that. They seen his qualities, so they asked him to stay.
That's an amazing story. I hope we come back to that, because I think that there's also the work ethic and the work product. It speaks for itself. And then when that personality and opportunity come together, something really special can happen. And I feel like just even in the short time, that's your experience as well, right? Here's someone who has a great work ethic, someone who can see more. You see this opportunity. And now here we are talking to you as you've started your business, which is really exciting. Is that a fair parallel to draw?
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Okay, so next question on that, and I'll pass it back. Right. But there's so much here that is great for our listeners. So you got this grant from the city of South Bend. First, how did that happen? Like, how did that actually happen? How did you hear about it? How did you know? Did someone recommend? Was there a mentor? Just how did that happen?
Yeah, it was actually a recommendation. So Sherry Pete, Cheryl Ash from the library.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I was working with her. She just gave me a laundry list of resources in our community, from IBDC to the city of South Bend, and I just filled out every one of them, in Project Impact with James Summers. So I contacted every single resource in our community to assist small business startups. With that, one of those was the city of South Bend, and I had, without even knowing it, I had checked all the boxes at that point in my business. I had my registered LLC. I had a business plan in place. I had everything in place that that they would put you through in their programming. So that elevated me to be capable to pursue the grant.
Okay, I want to keep getting super tactical, because I think so many people think, oh my goodness, I couldn't start a business. It's too hard. I don't know. What was that like? Was it hard? Was it easy? Once you got to South Bend and you started connecting with people, did you feel like there were resources available to you? What would you want to see differently if someone who's wondering if they can do it too is listening? What would you say to that?
I would say that in the state of Indiana, all it takes to start a business is $98 and some research, right? I Googled everything.
Mm-hmm.
The information and technology era that we're in had the resources, and as well as the questions that I had, you could also Google. But for our community, all these entities that assist business startups, they're here. Like, South Bend is bar none one of the most incredible places to start a business. And if you reach out, there are mentors and advisors. I just went through the Notre Dame entrepreneur program.
Mm-hmm.
And
with Mike Morris.
Yep. And they were assigning me another advisor, another counselor. And, I told them about all the others I had. They're like, maybe you have too many. I said, you can never have them too many. Because everybody's insight is what's elevated me and got me to the point I am in such a little amount of time.
And each mentor brings something different to the party. I just have to say this out loud, and then I'll pass the
buck. All right. No.
I literally got goosebumps when you said $98 to start a business in Indiana. I think that's really powerful, and I hope that's the clip that we edit to play again and again, because there's so much momentum and energy right now in the state of Indiana. And it's come up a couple of times in the podcast we've had that we almost undersell the Hoosier modesty and the mentality around it. And it's like, no, actually, this is a great place to be. And people want to work hard, and we need to tell our story more. So thank you very much for that. I get re-inspired every time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alex, I don't know if you remember, but so my first memory of you was, I think I met you like literally on the street, out near the county city building, and I was doing the small scale development work for the city of South Bend at the time, and you and I started talking. And okay, I meet a lot of people doing that work, so I didn't know what to think of you. You seemed like you had a lot of energy, but I meet a lot of people who have big hopes and dreams, and a lot of times they just end up spinning their wheels. What I noticed about you right away, though, was that you came back again, and you came back again. And not only did you just come back, but you had made progress. Every time I saw you again, you had taken another step. You had taken another step forward. And so that immediately struck me, because it's one thing to talk about things. It's one thing to go through the programs and talk to the mentors. I think it's a whole nother thing to then follow through on the advice that you're getting and follow through on the resources available. I'm wondering, what made you different?
I think understanding first and foremost that serious professionalism is so key. You can't just wing this thing. You can't just step out, have these big hopes and aspirations without a plan strategy, without executing what it is that the steps and these mentors are giving you, right? I was here to learn and I had to pay attention. I couldn't just, I wasn't a business owner, I had to learn that throughout this journey.
Sure.
And so learning from other business owners, they're telling you and sharing this information, at virtually no cost, but just your time for, so you got to take that serious and taking one step at a time, not moving too fast, understanding where you are. And as you're saying, go back. If you have questions, if you're not understanding, reach out, do your research, and your answers will unfold.
I so appreciate what you said about the heart not being there. My analogy is it's super easy to do management by spreadsheet. It can all make sense on paper, but then there are real people and there is heart behind it. And if you don't get that piece right, it's all going to fall apart, right? It can be like super profitable, high margins, all of those things. But if it's not done in the right way, or if it's not going to live up to the brand expectation, it's not going to be this premier offering, then it doesn't work. So I super, super respect and appreciate that. Could you talk, I appreciate the we language that you use, right? Because this is all bigger than any one of us, but could you talk a little bit about your team and the team you've put together and kind of how you see this growing over the next few years?
Yeah, my team that's actually works for Indiana's Elite Cleaning outside the consultants and advisors. Again, they are the backbone of the company, like most small businesses. And I knew, we talk about in our industry, in our community, the need for quality employees. People don't want to work. I think that's a misconception. But understanding and engaging your employees is what we really hinged and focused on. And it was actually a book that I learned the concept called the Dream Manager concept, based on a fictitious cleaning company.
Really?
Didn't even know. I was just reading it. This is pre, business days. But I used it when I got to that point. And so the Dream Manager concept is, this is my dream, to be a business owner, to provide for my family, and these people are helping me obtain it. Yeah. So on our application, one of the most important interview questions we actually ask is, what is your dream? Right? And understanding what your employees' dreams are, that's our key. Because then we roadmap them, we have the financial consultants that will assist them, because most dreams come with the financial aspect, and most of them also come with home ownership. So we roadmap them for that, because now they no longer just think of this as a mundane, meager position, but this is how I obtained my dream.
Mm-hmm. Right. This becomes a pathway to them achieving what their dream is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the second time I've gotten goosebumps in this podcast. So I super appreciate that. The other thing I want to say for all of our listeners who are just listening and can't see your face, when you talked about your team, your whole face lit up. And I think that's extraordinary, because I don't know if that's how every leader leads. And so I just want to comment on that and say that's wonderful. And I can imagine the tenure that you're going to have and the team you're going to build is a function of this, both caring about them as people and individuals, integrity in the work, and then helping them grow in their dreams. I just
that's fantastic. Was it my guess is that a lot of your employees were not used to being asked that question during a job interview.
And I think even the fact that I was told, the fact that you even asked was so much more than they've ever received.
Were people nervous about sharing that with you?
I allowed some to, it was an extra piece of paper because it could be pretty lengthy.
Sure.
And I allowed them to take it and bring it back.
Yeah.
And some would want to do that right then and there. But they all bring it back. Yeah. Because again, the fact that you asked that question, it helped them as well. Not just me understand them, but them themselves. Like, what do I want? How do I get there? And, this company is willing to help me and assist me. So that was very encouraging for them.
Could you share a little bit more detail around one of those examples? So in your mind, you don't have to name names, but think of one or two people on your team right now and how your company has supported them on their path toward their dream. I heard you say a little bit of the financial planning or working towards home ownership, but specifically, what does that look like?
Yeah. So again, we sit with the financial, we have a financial advisor that we use for our business and in my personal life.
Okay.
And they take on these people as clients, and then they process map, figure out where they are and lay down that roadmap for them. And then they follow through with the plan of action. And I think for one of our employees that I'm thinking about specifically, she's ready to move into her first-time home buyer. She's got the down payment. She's just she's got this credit score built up, and now she just needs to find the home she actually wants.
Right.
That's wonderful.
That is really great. Yeah.
So you've talked, I want to go back a little bit because if you put just a pure business hat on, what you are offering, aside from the heart piece, which again, I think is extraordinary, that it's a benefit, right? That is an employee benefit that you are offering to your colleagues. Fair to say?
Yeah.
So, but going back, you talk about the love of the work and the satisfaction of turning something that wasn't shiny and beautiful into something that is. Where did the business side come from? How did you learn that piece? How, you said you were ahead of the curve when at every milestone. How did the writing the business plan come about? How did you do that? Where did that all come from?
Reading.
Yep.
Lots of reading.
Okay.
I read, I studied. There's a lot of information out there, and when you just read, then you can understand how it's done, and you can just make it yours then.
That's great. So it's funny, one of the conversations we've had often is just sometimes you just have to do it, right? People think it's harder than it is, but you look it up, say,
Yes.
Okay, you get the LLC $98 and on to the next, right?
And imagine having those mentors to bounce the idea off of or clarify some point that maybe was new for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Was part of that journey as well.
Truly.
Yeah. I want to get back to, when we were standing outside a little bit ago, is kind of get back to the persistence piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
You started to tell us a very brief story about getting a contract. Do you mind retelling that story here?
Yeah. So it was the city of South Bend. And they're actually, that opened up so many doorways because now we've taken over multiple departments and we actually were working with the fire stations now. So, but it started in the Latino Chamber of Commerce certification class that we were taking with Paula Sowers. And we were in class and Mickey Lovey was there. He's the procurement director, and he was sharing how to become a vendor, how to get registered, and how to get city contracts. And there was a comment made by one of my classmates that just, it's kind of intimidating to go up to the 14th floor of a big building. There's a small front desk, but it's not like a welcoming desk. Like, How do you just go? What do? We just go in there and say, hey, give me a contract. And, and everybody kind of agreed, like, yeah, like, what are we supposed to do with that? And I said, no, that's exactly what you do. And that's exactly what I did. And I'm not afraid to go in, and the story's the same for Notre Dame. I found out about Innovation Park. I went up to the receptionist and I said, Notre Dame wants to assist the community. Don't worry about going in the community. The community's here. I have a small business. Help me. Yeah. And I'll never forget the receptionist's face. She's like, I'm not sure what to do with that. Yeah. But walking past was Matt Levy. Okay. And she's like, Matt, do you want to help this gentleman? And I gave him the same pitch, and he said, come with me.
Yeah.
And I think it's that persistence and that drive that people see, and they recognize that they want to support.
Yeah. I think that's such an important lesson and such an important thing for our listeners to hear as well. Like, you can study all you want, you can take the classes, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And it's okay. A no is okay, right? A no
if that's the worst thing, then you go for the next no.
And usually I'm imagining for you a no as well. I'll check back with you in 6 months.
Yeah,
maybe that
truly.
Maybe that no will become a maybe, and then maybe
it
that
really
maybe will
is.
become a yes.
And I think added value to that is that think unconventional as well, right? some of the contracts I would have never thought about, and so getting into those spaces that are unconventional, Marty, when I went to it was the redevelopment classes and networking event. I'm not a redeveloper. I don't buy properties and flip them or redevelop, but they need cleaning, right?
Absolutely.
So I
It's
went
part of the ecosystem.
I went to that networking event. Now, I can't even tell you how much I've obtained from that, but just thinking unconventionally, where is there a need, and stepping out, putting yourself out there, as you're saying, in a different way.
Yeah, that is great.
So thinking about you going out to these events and doing the networking and knocking on doors and being comfortable with a no, but actually it seems like you've gotten a lot of yeses, and here, let me take you to the next person. What have you learned about yourself in terms of the work that you enjoy doing the most and how you divide with other people on your team?
I feel like I'm back and forth sometimes. So very early stage, of course, small business owner was all me.
Yep.
And I did have a small team, a couple
Mhm.
guys, with the contracts we did have. Then we've tried different things. We brought in an admin personnel. Then the need became, well, I need her out in the field. So we had to switch roles, and I think we're doing that again. We're
Okay.
reassessing where we are today. Because year 2, I think for us, year 1 was all about establishing ourselves in the community
Mhm.
as a reputable service provider. Year 2, because of the assistance with the grant, new equipment implemented, a lot more service capabilities, we're having to reassess everything right now. So now we're training on some of the larger equipment, some of the more technical pieces to our business. We're training on that, and then once we get there, reevaluating admin and different roles as well. Again, so
Yeah.
it's a revolving process.
Yes.
So I like very much how, say it's janitorial services, right? Which sometimes have, the reputation is, oh, who wants to do that job? Or, that's like lowest rung on the ladder kind of attitude that some people have. But you approach it exactly the opposite. Like you're leaning right into it and saying, I'm providing a valuable service it's valuable and such that people will pay good money for it. Needs to be done. I have a family history of this. And I always notice about you, when you show up looking great. Like even for this podcast, you're wearing a nice
Yep.
jacket. You are
Where's your jacket,
leaning
Marty?
into this. I know I'm feeling underdressed compared to Alex here. Yeah, but I mean, you're leaning into this as a true professional in this space. And I think that's really fantastic. And is that something you learned from your grandfather? I'll go back to the grandfather story for a second.
I would say
or from
absolutely.
your parents, your mother.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Suit and tie all the time. But service-based industry, I feel, in our community and in this day and age is so important, right? There's an employee deficit when it comes to hands-on working, and we're in the information technology era of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's different employees for different niches and roles in the industries. So exemplifying, although we may not be building tech companies, but we are a professional, reputable service provider, and carrying yourself in that manner, it produces that feel, not just within the company for our clients, but as well as our employees.
Yeah. And I assume that you instill that value in your employees as well.
Absolutely. It's first and foremost.
Yeah.
Have you specifically laid out the values of your organization?
Absolutely. Yes.
Would you share them with us?
Well, I think what the value proposition that we are is, not only are we minority business enterprise for those entities that have those federal mandates, but we're a comprehensive cleaning company. What that means is, we found with our market test, for somebody to get a full-scale service of cleaning and hit each sector of cleaning, you'd have to go through multiple vendors, right? You'd have to go through a window washing company, carpet cleaning company, janitorial, floor waxing and buffing. Then if you got tile and grout, that's another company. So all these different, vendors for one building, right? So again, with the City of South Bend's grant, we bought all the equipment to be that one-stop shop provider, so you could get everything done through us. The values of that is, you have one service provider, right? we do bundle service offers, right? And say, throughout the length of your service agreement, instead of like, say you have a large space and you need your carpets done, instead of getting a lump sum $20,000 carpet bill all at once, we cycle those payments out through the length of your service agreement. So it's more beneficial for the business, our client's cash flow.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. So when I think about that, that is both strategic operations for both you and for them. Everybody wins. They can manage cash flow better. They're getting a higher offering and one-stop shopping, which just makes life so much easier.
Truly. And to even keep going is that because I'm not just the carpet cleaning guy, only obtaining revenue from just carpets.
Sure.
I have multiple streams of revenue coming in. I'm washing your windows. I am doing your carpets. I have your janitorial staff in place, so I can beat my competitors' pricing.
Right. So the only challenge there is you have to also then manage multiple skill sets and on your team, right? Yeah.
Truly. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is what we're diving into currently. So.
Yeah.
That's great. He said with a smile.
Yep.
Yes.
So when you think about, I go back to I'm happy to be in Indiana. Your business is thriving in Indiana. Customers are coming to you. What more can the community do to support your next chapter of growing your business?
I think the community, my big go-to, and I say this all the time, is supplier diversity, right? It's a conversation we're having in our community, and we're beginning implementing programs and opportunities in our community. I understand where we are as in those beginning stages, but we need more help. We need more professionals with serious track records of expertise in helping minority businesses obtain, learn, and grow and scale into those opportunities, not even just for the benefit of just the business, but as well as the clients as whole. So I know we're getting there, and it's going to be a process, but anybody listening, if you have that expertise, if you know supplier diversity, reach out. Let's get connected and further advance what's taking place in our community and helping us get there.
That's great.
That is excellent. And I suspect, Alex, that you are going to be one of the leaders in our region in helping make that happen.
You know what? I'm quickly learning that I am.
Yeah.
I felt that I was just a business guy wanting to do supplier diversity, right? But because of the rooms I'm in, because of the conversations I'm having, the connections I have, I've recently developed a partnership with a major construction management firm, C. Garcia Associates and Foso Construction, based out of Indianapolis, that have that track record, right? Who are now assisting me as the prime over all my contracts to be able to grow into those, right? Minnis Consulting, and what NIMBA Group, Northern Indiana Minority Business Association Group is doing, as well as, Notre Dame with their supplier diversity programmings, we're getting there. And because I'm that guy listening and having these conversations, I'm being looked at as one of those leaders.
Yeah. You're out there. You're in the conversations. You're in the room, as you say. And so you're in a position to be an advocate at a minimum.
Truly.
And growing into a true leader in the area.
Well, I think one of the business goals for us was to become a prime contractor, right? And quickly, I thought like maybe a 5-year goal, right? But we're already moving into that.
I mean, my line is Ginger Rogers, backwards and in heels, but sincerely, right? That's hard. I commend you, and I don't think that is an easy task. So just to say that out loud, and I hope the community continues to find ways to thank you for the work that you're doing on that behalf.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I guess, my words is I can only rise as high as I lift others.
Wow, that's great.
Goosebumps 3 times now.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sincerely. So all the books, all the libraries, what are some, you can choose your own answer, or choose the question you want to answer. Question 1 is, what are some of your favorite books that you just can't, that you always go back to reflect on?
Good one.
Or the question is, what question should we ask you to get to these other nuggets that are in there that we haven't asked the right question yet?
Can we make him answer both those questions?
Yeah. Truly, it'd be
great.
Faith-based or the Bible, that's, if you really even dive into the Bible and how much business practice and conversation is taking place. I was working with one of my suppliers, And he's very open about his faith and utilizing it in his business. And we were talking about even Paul, the St. Paul, how he was a business owner. He was a tent maker. And you look at Corinth and the city of Corinth, there's a metropolitan area, and he used that as his ministry, right? The principles and values, that it's giving me as just as a man of faith, as well as my business, is what's led the way.
That's wonderful. You want to push him on the books question?
What about the books question? Okay, you mentioned the Bible. Got it.
Yes. And that unlocks the other. So I guess
right.
That's a fair
and
point.
you talked about, what was the first one?
The Dream
The Dream Manager Concept by Matthew Kelly.
Excellent.
Yeah, the Dream Manager Concept by Matthew Kelly. Again, it was just, the whole book was based on the employee gap, right? Obtaining, losing employees, having to retrain, the money he was losing in it, and just keeping them.
Did you know I imagine in janitorial business that's a constant problem, turnover, losing employees. Like, were you really aware of that going into starting this business, that you were going to have to really focus on that employee development in order to keep a good, long, steady supply of teammates who could keep your business going?
I believe so, yes. I focused on, again, the question of how can I help them more than just a paycheck, right? There's jobs, there's money out here, there's opportunities out here, but what is their heart, right? And how do we tap into that and lead them to the same goals, by focusing on that?
Yeah. That's wonderful. So we oftentimes wrap this podcast up by asking you, outside of work, and I know you work really hard and a lot of hours, but outside of work and your advocacy, say, for minority-led opportunities, what do you engage in the community to make South Bend Elkhart a great place to live, work, play, raise a family?
Why I fell in love with South Bend was that it was tackling, and it has so many people tackling the problematic issues within the community, from drug addiction to returning citizens to gun violence to at-risk youth. All those problems and issues are near and dear to my heart, right? So I got involved there, right? And then business just came after. So it was, becoming the first male board member for Recover Michiana, a change agent for Connect to Be the Change. I pick up at the South Bend Reentry Center a group of returning citizens in their program and take them to church with me. And so many other nonprofit work, Men's Talk, and I can go on and on. Take a Heart, all these. That's what made me fall in love with South Bend, was to be a part, to be an assisting, helping hand. To I didn't even know it at the time, but South Bend is number 1 per capita in nonprofits. So people that have an interest and want to help is what shows why our community is thriving and so beautiful.
Yeah, that's an interesting path too. So you sort of, the community aspect of it led for you. The business came next. And a lot of times we interview entrepreneurs, and after they've established their business, then they oftentimes start becoming involved in the community more aggressively or more deeply engaged. But that's great. So you got here, and that was your entry was through the community efforts.
Yes.
And then you started building your business
afterwards. Yep.
After that happened. Yeah. Great.
Yep. Love it. Well, all 3 of us here are transplants to the region, and we are delighted to be in the transplant camp with you. So thank you so much for your time today. And I know our region is better because you are here. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Great story. Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Alex.